5,000 predominantly black churches in the United States, an astronomically high number for people that represent roughly 12% of the population.
Now, certainly when you look back to scholarship by people like Benjamin E. Mays in the 1930s and 40s, Dr. Mays raised this issue. Is the black community over church? Are there too many churches in black communities? And I think he was looking at it particularly with this kind of calculus in mind. Are there more of these institutions than we can afford to support? At the same time that we have such great poverty in the African American community.
Why are there so many churches, and why are we doing so badly as black people, as a group, despite the extreme number of churches? And do you think that there is a correlation between our high praise and our low productivity?
Now let me see. This is a very challenging question.
I'm gonna be robbed today, gonna be robbed in church today. Preacher gonna duke me like he did last week. Yeah, gonna be robbed today. Yeah, robbed today. Gonna get duped by the preacher today. Gonna go to hell when he's done with me. Oh, gonna be robbed today.
Shalom, Kahala, Yahawah, Bashem Yahshai, Bashem Qadash. Double honor to my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about these false churches and how they have robbed our people being the Israelites of the Holy Bible, the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans. But before we get into that, let's read this. This is Matthew 7:15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns and figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. And that's what these people are. They are a bunch of corrupt trees. Okay, they are a bunch of false prophets who are over-churching our community. Now, a lot of these people here in this image, this is a poster that I made a long time ago to just depict the false religion facade that has been set up by the powers that be to mislead the people who are looking for the Lord. And all these people have set up doctrines, they've set up churches, they've set up their own religions, so that way they could all get a piece of this $82 billion or $82.5 billion. I'm sure it's even more now. And ultimately to deceive the people. Now, a lot of these people here, they themselves are deceived because they go into what the apostles referred to as the cemetery schools, right? Which are, seminary schools. But the thing is these people don't know the Bible. What they know is religion, or some new sort of religion that they've come up with or that they're part of. But from here, from the very top, you got this devil here, right? He's the Pope of the Vatican Church, and the majority of churches that have spawned in the earth today all stem from the Vatican Church. So let's go to the Bible timeline, because one thing that we got to make clear is that the Bible is not religion. Okay, remember, the Bible from the very beginning has always been a historic record of the Israelites. Okay, it's a historic record of the people that the Israelites come from. Right, in the beginning we were referred to as the children of God. then we were called, Shemites, then Hebrews, and then ultimately they even called us Chaldeans, right? Because our forefather Abraham came out of the land of the Chaldeans, right? So you even had Ammonites referring to us as the descendants of the Chaldeans, which we are not. We're us Israelites. We are not Hamites. We descend from Shem. Okay. Well, eventually, we would be referred to as the Hebrew Israelites, and that's because we descend from the line of Eber, and namely from the line of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, making us the Israelites, because again, we come from our forefather Israel. Okay, we are the 12 tribes that make up his family, and until we were for the most part lost to the world, our religion, or should I say our heritage, was used as a basis for what's known as religion. And this took place when you go into history, when the Hebrew slaves, the Israelites, slaves that filled up the markets, and like starting from 70 AD onward, they eventually rose up in power and ultimately claimed the emperorship. Okay, this man here, Emperor Constantine the First, they also refer to him as Constantine the Great. He made a lot of changes, and he was a Jake, right? He was a so-called Negro, and the changes he made fell in line with his own, people's beliefs, right? Now he did a lot to control the people underneath him, right? Because there's a quote from him, and here it is. Now this is actually talking about Constantine and why he changed over to this one God religion, right? It says, he saw with his own eyes the trophy of a cross of light in the heavens above the sun, and bearing the inscription, "Conquer by this." At this sight he himself was struck with amazement, and his whole army also, which was written by Eusebius Pamphilus, bishop of Caesarea, taken from his Vita Constantini, written in 337 AD. So Constantine, seeing, now if he actually saw a cross in the sky, I doubt it, right? Because the Lord is not going to use the signs of his death as a monument, right? The cross ultimately goes back to the worshiping of Tammuz. Okay, now this was something that Constantine had more than likely made up, but that was because one, the majority of the people in Rome had already taken on the belief of the Jews. Okay, and the thing is that he wanted to find a way to bring the people of pagan Rome and the Jewish, or the Jews that were living in Rome together. Okay, and he wanted to have these separated beliefs brought into one. Well, what did he do? He converted Roman from being a pagan country where they had multiple gods that they would worship, and they had temples all over the place, to a country that would only worship one God. That God would be the God of the Bible. Okay, and in doing so, they would set up an authority system, organization referred to as the Vatican, right? And that way they could basically manage this entire religious system that the Roman system was set up. Now eventually this Vatican system would go on to change the Sabbath to be a Sunday, right? Along with all these different councils that they did, the Council of Nicaea, Laodicea, Lateran, and Trent. At these big conferences of all the priests that were set up, and a lot of these priests, I'm pretty sure they were pretty much priests from old temples that they probably just swept into these Catholic temples, And again, the term Catholic is Latin for universal. Okay? Well, these priests, they came up with things like the rosary beads, which is a pagan instrument for repetitive prayer that the Bible tells us not to do. They also came up with the Mass, okay, where people would come together and in a building to give veneration and worship to the God that the priest pushed. But what did the Bible say about that? This is Acts 7:48. Howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet. So you see, so the Lord, He's not in these churches. Okay, He's not, there with these priests in these churches or even these synagogues. Okay, those are all man-made buildings, and they're worshiping their own doctrine that they've learned from their seminary classes, which doesn't teach what the Bible actually talks about. What they teach is historic events of the church. Okay, the things of how the church, separated, what certain religions believe, certain ecumenical doctrines, which is not biblical at all. This is why when you have people like Vocab Malone or all these other Christians or Catholics, Mormons, or all these other religious people come up to any of the camps, they always go away with their tails tucked between their legs, because they just realize that they don't know the Bible, they know religion. This is Jeremiah 23:1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi. Therefore, thus saith Yahawah, power of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evils of your doing, saith Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi. And that's ultimately what's happening, right? When you're seeing all these pastors these last couple of years being, knocked out in front of their congregations, being shot because they made some argument with, some, congregant there in their group, or you even have false messiahs out there in Africa, having to call the cops because people want us to crucify them. See, all these false pastors, all these religious people who have gone into the school of religion have done it either because they themselves were zealous or they did it for greed, right? This guy here, T.D. Jakes, man, this guy is a big time known prosperity pimp. Look at him before, right? He used to be all looking like Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks, man. This shows you, man, that a lot of these people are a bunch of low-life scumbags, man. But what happened is they got a little bit of money, and that was enough for them to sell out their people, right? And besides T.D. Jakes, the sad news is, man, you even got people amongst our own movement. You got the IUIC, you got the Comfies group, which is for the most part all but dead now that he's passed on. You got the ISUPK, which is a militant group led by Johanna, right? And then you got this guy here, Rawchaa, who is he's basically a singer, an R&B singer that masquerades as a religious pastor, right? Totally butchers the truth of the Bible. And you got this guy here, right? Bakwash, who is really no longer even around anymore. I believe. I think he's actually gone now. He stepped down. But you see, our people are deceived by riches, right? They've taken the bag and they've sold out our people, and they've gone ahead and joined the long litany, a list of all these other shysters and conmen and organizations that have been set up to mislead the people. And why is that? Well, because just like the Pope here is holding, they've all done it for tax freedom, right? A 501c3 tax-free organization. Okay, LBJ, the president that came in after JFK, said it himself that with the 501c3 tax credit, that he'll be able to control the churches in America. And that's ultimately what he's doing. So all these people here who have these tax-free organization churches, including people of our own movement, right? And when I say people of our own, I'm just talking about people who know they're Israelites and who unfortunately have capitalized on it, right? You got Nate over here saying, can't even say he's not a cop anymore, and that's because he is a cop still, more than likely, and chances are he's probably set up opposition. But you see, all these people here have all done it for filthy lucre, money, okay? Or like this Buddhist guy, right? He's done it because this is just what his people have set up, and this is all they know. But again, these people here are all teaching, by deception or because of ignorance. This is Luke 20:46. Beware of the scribes which desire to walk in long robes and love greetings in the markets and the highest seats in the synagogues and the chief rooms at feasts, which devour widows' houses and for a show make long prayers. The same shall receive greater damnation. And that's ultimately where these pastors are headed, man. This is why pastors can't get this truth. Right, this truth that you and I are seeking after, learning about, reading about, applying this understanding to, is all something that is kept from the majority of these pastors. People like Vocab, Bishop Dowell, all those people there on that poster I just showed you. Right, they don't know this, right? And why is that? Well, because you see, the Lord is putting it on their spirits for them to be too proudful to look into this. Right, they feel that they couldn't have been deceived all these years, that they have to have the truth when they don't even understand what the heck the truth is. This is Matthew 13:11. And he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but unto them it is not given. So these pastors who can't see it, along with all these churchgoers and all those Christians and religious people that come up to these camps who just can't get it, or your friend or your family member, who your co-worker, who you try to break this down to, who just can't get it, right? They've been over-churched, okay? They've gone to one too many churches and have been given one too many lies, and now their consciousness has been seared and they've been rejected by the Lord. And what does the Lord do? Has he done to them? This. He has kept back the truth from these people, right? This is why these pastors, the majority of them, can't get it. This is why these Christians don't get it. This is why all these people that you try to break this down to just do not get this, because they have not been given the understanding and the faith needed to understand the truth of the Bible. And why is that? Well, because you see, the real location where the Lord is at, right, where the Spirit of the Lord and the understanding of the Bible, which is the Holy Spirit, is at, it's not there in churches, right, made with man's hands, where they go and they talk for hours and hours. They'll read you one scripture, then they'll go on for an hour or two, waxing poetically about how we got to all love each other and you got to give them money and this and that, right? But they never really go into the scriptures to explain what it is. Well, this is why. This is Matthew 18:20. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. This is the true church. Okay, church is the Greek word for church is ecclesio, I believe, and that means to call out. You see, because what real church is not you going to some building. What real church is that the man of the house, be it your father, be it you if you're married and you have kids, or just you and your wife, right? Or even just you if you're single, right? You are to read the Bible to your household and break it down and explain it to them. That is the true church, okay? And that's where the truth is revealed. Not unto these multi-millionaire pastors who have these huge stadiums to deceive people and, have, who get multi-thousands of dollars every night that they they put on their performance. No, man, this truth is not for these devils, right? What did the Bible say? Woe unto the rich man, for you have received your prize. Well, that's what Joel Osteen and a lot of these other people have received. Okay, they've received their consolation, right? They've received their reward in this world, right? Now this devil here, this Edomite, he doesn't know the truth, right? He's even come out and said that they got their own Jesus that they pray and worship to, right? Because I remember seeing this devil on some news report or something where they were kind of they were exposing Joel Osteen's churches, and they were asking him, why does his teachings contradict the Bible, and why do they not reflect the teachings of the Messiah? And he said, well, that's people's own interpretations, that they themselves, talking about his organization, have their own Jesus that they pray and worship, right? And that's these devils, man. They have itchy ears, and they want to hear nothing but prosperity. Okay, and in doing so, these people have fulfilled a prophecy, which is this, right? This is what the Lord will do once He's rejected you, right? This is why a lot of people bug out, or they believe in a lot of weird shit. This 2 Thessalonians 2:11, and for this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So there you go. See, all these people who are going to these mega churches, who are going to these cities which are over churched, like in the first video that we watched, man, I can't tell you. When I was living closer to LA, I would drive down there. I remember I was seeing a chick down there, and this was East LA, the ghetto, right? And the thing is you could not go down a block without seeing some sort of, church in the midst of the block, man. It was just part of the neighborhoods, man. There were multiple churches, and they all were, crummy little churches, man. All the Virgin of Guadalupe, and all these different names and everything, and none of them would teach the truth, man. All of them were teaching religion, man-made doctrines, right? What does the scripture say? The fear of me is taught by the doctrines of men. That's what these religions have done to our people, man. They have miseducated our people to the point where our people, since Christianity came into play, which when you go into the Bible timeline, right, Christianity, right? Remember I was telling you how the Vatican established itself back in 313 AD? Well, from there, you had this man come up. His name was Martin Luther, who came, who was in the church Vatican system, but he came out and basically talked about how corrupt it was, and how they were doing plenary, where basically you would pay to sin, right? You would pay certain amounts, and pretty much the rich people could pay to sin, right? And all this type of stuff. And this man here had called it out, talking about how the church that wouldn't publish the Bible in English, they only published it in Latin because the average citizen wasn't smart enough to to read it. He said that this was the wrong understanding. Now that's true, but ultimately this man would go on to create what we would know as modern day Protestant Christianity. So all those Edomites out there who say they're Christians or Protestants, they're following what this guy says. Okay? Now, this guy here, from 1525, right? From when his organization went into power, you've had close to 500 years of their doctrines being in the world, right? And they haven't broken down scriptures. They haven't done anything. It was only in these last 70 years since Abba Bivens came on the scene in the 50s, 60s, right, to start teaching the word according to how it's being taught today. And we can verify that because there was that book that Abba Bivens published called The Mark of a Forgotten Race, I believe it was called. It was like an orange book that basically highlighted what his understanding and beliefs were. And when you listen to that, It's exactly what we're learning today under the apostles. Okay? So this shows you, man, that something that has been taught for over 500 years, and when you go back even further, for about 1700 years, right? When you go back to the Vatican and the Catholic Church, they have done nothing but increase wickedness on the world. Where on the other hand, now that this truth is out, right, starting all the way back with Abba Bivens in the 50s to now the apostles and all the Akim out here pushing this truth, now the world is starting to wake up. Now the Israelites are starting to realize who they are. Now we're starting to see the end time events taking place. And why is that? Well, because the truth is now manifest and is being preached throughout the entire world. So hopefully this video was edifying, Akim. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, B'Hashem Yahawashi, B'Hashem Qadash. Shalom.